first duty of a government is to protect its citizens.
Can you guys hear that? Do you want me to explain it?
It's like every city on the planet. Cats crop, fires break out, natural disasters occur. It even has the occasional fender bender. And, like every other city on the planet, the resources to address these incidents are unlimited.
The problem was everywhere, because the data was everywhere.
This is part of the image I really wanted you to see, is that a lot of the stories that are out there, a lot of the contents out there is in silos of technology, and we need to start thinking about how to make connections between them.
Why not just put more officers on more ships, or buy a bunch of new ambulances and fire trucks?
Again, like every city on the planet, a smarter city can't spend its way to a safer city.
But can it? Welcome to the Smarter City Integrated Incident Response Center. Like the multi-agency command hubs in New York City, Chicago, and Madrid, the Response Center helps the smarter cities' first responders coordinate their efforts and keep the city safer. A 911 call comes in. The system can simultaneously alert police, the ambulance service.
Okay. Anyone else scared about that, like, master control system that's coming out of this? There's a huge level of privacy concerns and issues as we move into this space that need to be addressed, and I'm no expert in that, but it is one point that I always make, is that, like, as exciting as all of this stuff sounds, we really need to think about how can we use this data responsibly, and how can we get people creating responsible interactions, like your point about the cars. How much trust can you put in the software that it won't crash into something, and that the two cars will communicate? How, at what point does the responsibility, and also when you're constantly giving away your location and potentially what you're doing, it becomes really questionable as well. And there's a big product that's about to come to market, which I'll talk about in a few minutes as well, that's worth thinking twice about. So just to kind of sum up the part that I've been talking about so far, every incident that's going on whenever you interact with one of these devices, with a digital device, is creating some sort of data. And that data can be collected and analyzed and compared over time. And when you start to analyze what's there, that's when you start to get stuff of value out of it. That's when you start to get patterns and insights emerging from the data that you can do stuff with, that you can create a mobile app from, that you can create a car app from, that you can make a news report out of. I mean, this is content, and it's living and breathing, right now, current stuff. So there's loads of potential in there if we learn to get our hands on it and do stuff with it. I'm hoping you guys recognize these things from Dr. Seuss. So they're representing the things on the Internet of Things that I was talking about. This is representing us, and this is representing the whole world. And kind of the way the Internet is going right now is that we've got everyone interacting with each other. All the people are on Facebook and email and Instant Messenger and blogs and everything else. And then we've got the buses and the police information, all that stuff in the connected city talking to each other. We're going to have cars talking to each other. But there's not much conversation going on between the two. And so I think that's where the next, big shift in how all of this stuff works is going to come, is when we start connecting the people and the things in this kind of global conversation that's going on. And the types of things that will be at the center of that, I think, are when we start to have all of the different objects around us connected. So when our shoes start to be able to get navigation data as we walk around the city, or when our car can change our entertainment experience based on how much traffic we're in, and how these systems all start to link up and completely change how we interact and intermediate the world around us. I'm going to give you some views into the slightly deeper future. I've been showing this for a couple of years. I don't know if you can see, but this guy's got his glasses on and he's got data being projected onto them, which is then changing what he sees in his field of vision. I've been showing this for about 5 years. This is from a company called Microvision that has been working very hard on this. Has anyone heard of another product that's like this? Google Glass. Can anyone see what's different about this in Google Glass?
That one covers more VR. Google Glass is just a little bit more where that's full.
Yeah. What else? You're very, very close to what I'm trying to get. Google Glass has a little camera on it. Everything that you look at is going to potentially be recorded and fed into the Googleplex along with your location. Those don't. That's why I'm saying we need to think about what we are surrendering in terms of privacy and how we, make these experiences responsible in terms of privacy and, and just simply what's happening with the data that we're getting. If we're all walking around with cameras on our faces, Google's getting Street View updated an awful lot more frequently, which means they're going to make more money and have a better product. And what do you get out of it? But to show you how these types of things can work, this is another slide from Microvision, or an image from Microvision, where they created a military application that the guys would wear goggles when they were trying to fix an engine, and the instructions would be put into their field of vision, superimposed right onto the engine that they were working on. So it's using augmented reality in a really advanced sort of way. Sorry, do people know what augmented reality is? I usually put a slide in that explains it first. Who knows what it is? Who doesn't? It's okay if you don't. Okay, so what augmented reality is a technology that has started on phone handsets, and it allows you to look through the camera at something. So like I might be able to look at that, and it would tell me that that's a speaker or a table or whatever. And you can then use that navigationally to find out where cache points are or directions to get someplace. It can also put fake things into your field of vision. So I could create an application that when I look at you guys, I see a dragon flying over or something like that. But this is a much more practical use. But again, if you're out in the field and you're in the military and you're trying to fix an engine, your hands are going to be busy. You can't do it with one hand and the other one with a phone in your field of vision. So again, it's looking for these natural interactions. It's looking for how can we make the data experience, the experience of this content as natural as possible by having the embedded technology in all the stuff around us. Now, I don't want to scare people too much when I talk about the privacy stuff because there is great stuff that can happen, but we just have to really think it through and be very careful. And yes, this is real. University of Washington in the States is making contact lenses that will do this. So potentially, we could all wake up and put contact lenses in and have data in our field of vision all the time. So I could look at you and see your Facebook profile, find out everything that you've ever put on there, and as I'm having that conversation, know all about you. There's a great video that you may have seen on YouTube called How Guys Will Use Google Glass. And the guy's out on a date with the girl, and he's like looking at her Facebook pictures and looking at her girlfriends and pretending that he's interested in whenever she mentions something really classy that he doesn't know about. He like Googles it really quickly and then gives her some interesting snippet, and he's then she like bends over to get something on, and he takes a picture down her shirt, and then at the end she gets up and she says, sorry, I don't think this is going to work. I don't like guys that wear Google Glass. And he said, how do you know I'm wearing Google Glass? And she turns around and she goes, Siri told me, and she's got her iPhone on the back of her head listening to everything that Siri's telling her about the stuff. So it's kind of ridiculous, but it makes the point that we are coming to a point where we can potentially just have this overwhelming amount of data that we're going to have to kind of sift through and mediate through, and that makes for really interesting questions about interface when we start to get designs like this where the content and the data becomes pervasive. We're not going to be in a place, I used to, when I would talk about mobile, I would say, look, we're moving into this world of casual computing. We're not going to go off to the study anymore at the end of the evening to check our email. We're going to just reach in our pockets and check our email all the time. And that's what I thought casual computing was going to be, was when you could just have your email with you all the time. But it's not going to be that long, I don't think, before you might get a little blinking red light up in your field of vision that lets you know that you've got mail. So, yeah. And just to really push it home, this is a home robot, which is available now. It will play games with you and stuff if you have £15,000 to spare. I've been trying to get them to send me one to try out since I've been talking about it so much, they keep saying no. But again, this is a thing that is going to be connected to data and interacting with you all the time if you go for a home robot at some point. Further down the road, obviously. So, thinking about, what happens when we create content, because that's what my company does. We work with technology, we work with design, but ultimately we create content where my background is. And people were talking about cross-platform content for a long time, and that meant how do you reversion stuff across TV, web, mobile, and it was kind of just like make it smaller, so that wasn't quite as exciting. But I think the place where the competition is going to start to come is in this sort of ambient media, and it might not necessarily be data in your field of vision, but can you get part of someone's attention while they're in the car, because that's the most valuable time to be providing them with the content that you're looking for. Can you be providing them with content when they're in the gym, because you create fitness information and that's the best time to do it, and because you can then personalize the content to the feedback that they're getting from the sensor in their shoes. And this is a diagram that lots of people use to talk about how people deal with information and content. And you've got data down here, which is all the information that's out there. And then we used to rely on the media, content makers, designers, to sift through that to find the important information and turn that into some form of knowledge for us to consume, which then we would internalize, hopefully, and whatever we internalized would go away as wisdom. And I think the role of the creator is now shifting down here, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It's just a change in the way that people like myself have to work. We have to think a lot more about data. We have to be looking for data a lot more, looking for those patterns and insights that I was talking about. Because the way things are going is that audiences and technology are interacting with that data to create their own wisdom now. So, through social media, through all of these connected devices, through this silent conversation that I've been talking about, that's how we absorb stuff now. We don't sit and wait for the 10 o'clock news to come on. We go, very interesting, thank you. We go out, we search, we sift, we look at what our friends are looking at, we see what people are sharing across their devices, and that's how we get this type of experience. The way that we try to think about these things is by thinking about what I call story systems that create value for the users. We try to think about, or what we need to think about, is how can we create content and context that creates meaning regardless of what device it's on. So, when we start to have 6, 7 of these connected things per person, you're never going to be able to guess that this guy is going to consume the video that I made in this way. He might, not see it on TV. He might see it on Google Glass in his field of vision while he's driving a car and listening to music that's controlled by his shoes. We just don't know. So we have to start thinking about it in a very different way. The media, going back to what you were saying at the beginning about the BBC, who I do still love, but it's very patriarchal model of like, I will tell you what's important and how to consume it, and that's changing, and that's, to me, very, very exciting as part of this connected world that's coming. To give you some examples of how this can manifest in ways that are simpler and more near-term than you think, and I want to show you some examples and some tools and sources that are out there. This is probably my favorite one, Terrible Profession, and my business partner, who's extremely fashionable, cringes when I show this. But does anyone remember the store C&A that used to be in the UK? There's a lot of young people here, so you might not remember. It was like an H&M type of store. They're now the biggest retailer in South America. They've left Europe, gone to South America. But what they've done, which I think is really cool, is they've created these connected hangers that are connecting to the Wi-Fi department, the Wi-Fi in the stores, in the department store. And if you could read Portuguese, you would already know what this says. It's number of likes. And this number that's on each piece of clothing shows how many people have liked it on the website. So they're taking that social data right out there, distributing it over Wi-Fi directly onto their collection of clothes. Now, I don't personally want to know that everybody else had this, but it's an interesting piece of information. And it's just showing how you can have these very, very light touch interactions. We don't have to go and scan that leather jacket. Who wants to scan a leather jacket, right? But if you just see, here's a piece of information that tells me more about this, that relates it to the social situation that's going on, that's quite interesting. And that, just to show here, again, there's data, and then it gets sort of aggregated and processed through the software and the people using Facebook, and then whether or not you think it's wisdom, but it comes out the other end. But it's the software and the people that are creating it, and the data is the actual content source. If you're interested in this, and I know there's some computing people in the room, I'd suggest you have a look at this website, Cosm. This is a messed up version of their homepage because this is their old homepage with their new logo on it, which they probably wouldn't like me doing. But their new homepage doesn't show all of these different data points. And what this is a repository for anyone who has connected devices to contribute data to. And you can see down here, it's a little bit geeky right now because who has connected devices? Geeky people generally. But you can see they're collecting data on radiation, temperature, electricity, air quality, humidity, light, weather, carbon dioxide, Japan, water. This was around the time of the Japanese radiation disaster that I took this screenshot. So, but there's all sorts of stuff out there. There's museums publishing how many people are coming through the door. There's all sorts of stuff. There's moods that people are transmitting periodically. You can pick all of this stuff up, and it's mostly free because people want to share it. They want to be part of that world. I talk to museums a lot. Sorry. I talk to museums a lot, and one of the things that I'm saying is like, if you are doing an exhibition on air quality, of course you're going to show the historic data. Why wouldn't you pick up the live data and show that to the visitors as well? And then why wouldn't you show them how to make one of these things or sell them one in your gift shop where they can then contribute the data back in and become part of the experiment, bring the museum experience to life using this type of data. This is another platform developed in the UK as well, which is really cool, called Tales of Things, and this is a platform that lets people connect memories to objects, real-world objects. And the thing that's worth saying about this that's really interesting is it's almost technology-free, because the only technology that gets attached to the object is a QR code that you print out on your printer. So you're not actually like embedding mobile engineering technology into the devices, but what you're doing is you're making them addressable on the internet via the QR code. The QR code turns into a URL, which then means that the thing is addressable by the internet and by people on the internet. And so to show you, because you're probably like, why would you want to attach memories to things? I'm going to show you another video. I think this is a really, really cool application of this. It takes a minute to get going. But anyway, what they did was Oxfam had this big charity store kind of sale in Selfridges. So you can imagine the type of charity shop clothes that Selfridges has. But the clothes then had these QR codes attached to them, and they were going through the Tales of Things platform. So each piece of clothing was a piece of clothing, but it also had memories attached to it. And when you got the clothes, you could then scan the thing and find out what memories were attached to your piece of clothing. And we'll see an example in here. Sorry, PowerPoint won't let me forward it, so I have to listen to some music for a minute. So this lady's got this nice yellow dress, and lo and behold, it used to be Annie Lennox's, and she wore it to Nelson Mandela's birthday party. So, and that will stick with that garment as long as the tag stays with it. And now she might be able to attach a memory and say, here's the video of me wearing it at my daughter's wedding, or whatever it is. And so not every single piece of information is going to be hugely meaningful, but things can start to collect these sort of tails of data and tails of content alongside them, which then can be analyzed and processed. Like I was saying, all of this data creates some sort, every interaction creates more data, and you can do stuff with that data over periods of time. I think this is going to be a really slow game before we see all of this value unlocked, because things need to start collecting the data before we can start doing it. And again, like when I talk to the museum world, that's what I'm saying to them. You have the most interesting things in the world. Why aren't they in the Internet of Things? Because the Internet of Things right now is lots of boring stuff like motion sensors. Yes?
You make some really cool videos.
These are videos that I've borrowed from other places. Sorry.
Now you got a competition. Who wants to make music for my video? Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, I probably could. Actually, well, no, I'm not going to. So, again, I promised to, towards the end of this, bring it home a little bit and try and show you how it might change some of the world around us. Change some of the kind of content that we're used to dealing with all the time rather than whiz-bang applications in cars. So, first one, weather report. Anyone recognize Hurricane Sandy? This is a little bit of an understatement that I use these graphics, but we're at home. Oh, and sorry, that's the other thing I want to say. It's just, yeah, I've sort of put it into this framework of connected environment, connected home, connected devices, and connected body, or what's being called WBAN instead of WLAN, so it's wireless body area network, or cyborgism, which is kind of the idea of that has been around in science fiction for a long time, where man and machine merge, and potentially, depending on how you look at it, the idea that we could have contact lenses that are continuously computing for us. Maybe that's where cyborgism begins. So I've kind of tried to categorize these a little bit there. So, connected environment. I think that could change how we consume weather reports. Right now, if you wanted to find out if Hurricane Sandy was going to come and total the place that you grew up, you would have to go to the news and sit down and watch whatever. But what could happen when there's a storm coming, if you do a little bit of hacking, and this is possible right now, is you could take the weather conditions for a specific location and put a small Wi-Fi chip and audio, a bleeper. Why can't I think of the word? Anyway, you could a little sound device into an umbrella, and that umbrella by your door could beep at you whenever it's going to be rainy in the location where you live. And just as a reminder, 6 hours from now it's going to be pouring rain in here. Beep, 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 beep. So the content actually starts to come to you rather than you having to go down and sit and wait for the weather to come on or looking online. And you're too busy in the morning to go and do that at the computer if you're anything like me. So what's that?
There's a company that already sells that. The handle shines red.
Is there?
If you walk out the door, yeah.
They've been hearing my speeches.
The handle shines red.
Well, tell me, if you know the name or whatever, let me know later on.
Pervasive something, I'll find
I've
out.
been saying that this has to happen, so hopefully either it's a nice coincidence or they've heard me and they've made me one. It's probably easier to get that than the robot.
Another point about that is that I know I visited BT research place in Marsh and stuff some years ago, and they've got something like 6,000 patents. Well, that was then, you've probably got more. And they showed things like a vase of flowers that wilted if you hadn't remembered someone's birthday, relative's birthday. So they're these sort of household devices, rather like your umbrella there. Not things in production, but
yeah. No. We work with a research center that's looking at these types of things and experiences, and someone who I work with, not entirely sure why, but I've made a plant that when you stroke it, it makes music. Kind of a cool art project. Another one, who remembers this movie? Who was scared? Who was really scared? Who was really, really, really scared?
Sorry, which one is it? There was quite a few of them.
This was from the poster of, it kind of doesn't matter, but it's from the poster of the Blair Witch Project. And what we're doing is we're getting into a world where facial recognition starts to become possible, and brain reading starts to become possible. There's a couple of game systems out there that actually read your mind waves, and there's no joystick anymore. You just think what you want to happen on the screen, and it starts happening. There is a question?
Actually, I think last year there was a technology science conference in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had a little short movie where you watch a movie, put a finger in your head, watching more than anything else. If you're too scared, some of the flowers start to bloom and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of exactly the idea here, is that, you know, if it starts getting biofeedback from you that you're sweating a lot and that you're thinking that you're scared to death, it could actually tone down the scariness. It can change the narrative of the film. Or if you're like sitting there cool as a cucumber, tapping your feet and kind of like, you know, relax, it could start making it scarier. And there's a system called Mind Play. I don't know if that's the one that you saw that does that. And there's another one called Emotive, E-M-O-T-I-V. Actually, they're both spelled weird. Mind Play is Mind Play with a Y instead of an I, and Emotive has no E at the end. And you know, there's more and more of this stuff starting to come down the road. I mean, I've tried these systems, and they, you know, it's a little bit weird. They do work. One of them has to do a brain scan quickly, where they kind of calibrate it to your own systems, and the woman who invented it looked at my brain scan and said, "That's very, very strange. They never look like that." So that might tell you something. Next one is thinking about what if you could have a documentary that could sense how long you wanted to watch it for and what topics you were interested in and wanted to find it out about in depth. So this is using the same type of technology. Am I just in the mood for a quick dose of Planet Earth? Or do I want like the full extended DVD thing? And then when it gets to my favorite fish, how to do like a sort of deep dive, no pun intended, until I get completely bored of looking at my favorite fish, and then it comes back into the main narrative and picks up again. Using this type of stuff, that can happen. Hard on the TV people, though. Facial recognition is another one that's coming out, sorry. That's out there where you can start to gauge people's reaction based on what their face looks like, and based on what expressions they're making. I think that's going to be particularly interesting in the art world, looking at whether or not you can capture people's reactions to different artworks and what that might mean, what you might be able to gather about them. Bill Nigella, she's always cooking something delicious. But what if we had little tiny sensors that were around our body that were saying, actually, you've been on the salts too much today, or, you know, you said you're supposed to be cutting back on sugar, and we know. And, you know, that type of thing, they're starting to be able to detect that. They're even starting to look at little robots that you could potentially put into you. That's not going to happen anytime too soon. But that, you know, all of that data is going to be translated. So when you get the recipes from Nigella, perhaps they could be adjusted for you to be nutritionally right for you. So this isn't just personalizing it, going, oh, well, I put strawberries instead of bananas on it. This is actually like being able to integrate right with data that's being drawn out of you. And then another one, if you have the glasses or Google Glass or whatever, perhaps you're having that lovely, you know, sit down and watch some TV, watch your favorite show with your other half, cozy on a couch. But then you have an opportunity to pause the main story and go off and see your own side stories, subplots, based on your favorite characters. Get a branched narrative of the experience, and then come back to watching the main show you were watching. Both having watched the same show, but having had slightly different experiences because you have this ability to have a personal, private display while you're watching. Yep.
So we're research co-located in the London working with
Okay.
personalised TV
Yep.
and interaction with groups working with TV programs personalised to the users.
Well, we should talk afterwards, because we just built something that sort of does that. It provides the branching video.
Yeah. I was going to say, the other thing is, so before we start fancy recipes from Nigeria, the first thing we're going to use it for is personalised product placement. So it's something things.
Gotta have a commercial application. I think that's about it. So thank you for listening. I hope I gave you something to think about, and we've got time for questions. Did I get it?
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's lots of
A little early, but
lots of questions.